where during the pandemic, we achieve counter-pandemic with no lockdown and also counter-infodemic with no takedown. So that's two cases right there, right? One is about a citizen participation to make sure that not only the mask is generally available in pharmacies and later on convenience stores, but actually people share the tools that allows everyone to locate the nearby pharmacies that have the mask available as chatbots or interactive maps and so on. And when the distribution mechanism is put to question, for example, the urban versus rural distribution and so on, because all the open data is published automatically every 30 seconds, people queuing in line can actually participate in the accountability just by looking at their phone and seeing that people swiping their national health card before them actually results in the accurate reduction in availability on the app. And people can also suggest, and they did, new distribution mechanisms, which we would later then merge into the national distribution mechanism. And so because of that, by last April or so, we reached a point where 3/4 of people had access to medical grade mask, wear them, wash their hands, and so reducing the basic transmission value to be under 1 is a great co-creation story. Now, for the infodemic, we also rely on people to flag incoming messages that they think as disinformation or conspiracy theory, just like flagging email as spam. They could flag it to the Cofacts bot that's maintained by the Gov0 G0V community, or Trend Micro, that's Taiwan's leading antivirus company, or Who's Called. There's many cases, and after people flag these disinformation, we roll out very funny memes like humor over rumor couple hours after we detect a trending conspiracy theory, so that people can actually laugh about, for example, the conspiracy theory about tissue paper is going to run out because those accused the theory that the nation is nationalizing the mask production facilities to confiscate tissue paper materials. Of course, that's not true. They're not the same material, but a very funny meme with our premier wiggling his bottom, saying that each of us only have a pair of bottoms. It's hilarious. Everybody laugh about it, but it contains the table that says, well, the masks are made from domestic materials and tissue paper from overseas materials. But it relies on everybody to collaboratively check what's trending in terms of disinformation, and also remixing the memes, like from the cute spokesdog, the CECC spokesdog Zong Chai, a very cute Shiba Inu that put a hand to their mouth and say, wear a mask to protect your own face against your own unwashed hand. That get remixed a lot. Yeah, I think just make sure that when people put forth a genuinely good idea, thank them for it. If they point out mistakes, show competence by admitting the mistakes and then fixing it. We always say the next Thursday, because the CECC have a daily 2 p.m. press conference, and we update the underlying software for mass distribution every Thursday. So every time anyone points out something wrong, we always say we'll fix it by the next Thursday, and we thank them for it. Like last April, there was a young boy that called saying, hey, you're rationing our mask, but all I get is this pink medical mask. But he's a boy. He doesn't want to wear this to school because he said that all the boys in his class have navy blue mask. He doesn't want to stand out in wearing pink. The very next day on the 2 p.m., all the medical officers, regardless of gender, wore pink medical mask. Minister Chen even said Pink Panther was a childhood hero. So the boy became the most hip boy in the class, for only he has the color that the heroes and heroes hero wear. Now any mayor, any local township can actually do this, because all it's required is a toll-free number or a email address and a daily press conference. And the press conference could be over live stream, it could be radio, it could be television. It doesn't require high bandwidth technology, but it does require a attention to the immediate response in the here and now, so that people feel incentivized to contribute even more. I I think reliably our Central Epidemic Command Center's measures, if these measures are co-created with the citizenry, it gets very, very high, like 91% approval rate. The same goes for our tax filing experience because, well, tomorrow is tax filing day, so it's fresh in my memory. On May the 1st, we roll out a tax filing system every year, but in 2017, there was a problem because Java applet was being, deprecated by the Oracle Corporation. So people who use Linux or use Mac could not file their income tax easily that year. And people complained on a national petition website. People said that the tax filing experience is explosively hostile. And instead of defending the policy, we just invite anyone who complain about the experience to co-create. So by 2018, already the tax filing experience has 96% approval for Mac and Linux users, and the next year 98% once we include Windows user to the mix of the revamped system. And then we repurpose the system so it becomes the mask ordering system, and later on also stimulus voucher ordering system. And so it's based on a shared public infrastructure that was co-created by the people who complain about the experience the most. And when that happens, we see 90-something% approval rate, which is unheard of in Taiwan's history of digital services. We usually think it's pretty good when we get like 70%, 80% approval rate. But once thousands of people co-create something, it's very likely that we see the numbers at 90 or so percent. We need to bring technology to the elderly. We don't ask the elderly to come to technology. For example, when we're initially rationing out the mask, the initial proposition was that we do so via mobile payment on the convenience stores. Of course, it's more convenient and it doesn't require any new development. The only thing is that the elderly will not use it that easily, and then we will not get the 3/4 of population wearing mask, right? And so we instead said that the elderly are already very well versed using the universal health card to the local pharmacy to get recurring prescriptions, because many elderly people do have chronic conditions. So actually they're more familiar with that system and more intimately linked with the local pharmacists and all the medical staff and long-term healthcare staff and so on than the young people. So actually the young people could trust the elderly with their national health insurance card, and the elderly people can actually get the cards of the entire family and go to the pharmacy to speak with the familiar pharmacist, who will then show them how actually to properly wear the mask, wash their hands, and so on, and for the elderly to serve as a kind of ambassador to bring that message of public health home to the younger people. So they are in a situation where they are in control, right? They have a workflow experience that they're interested in, and they're already more familiar with actually than the junior people. And when we expanded the pre-ordering to the convenience stores, I asked my own grandmother, 88 years old, to be the focus group to try out the experience. And she suggested her younger friend, 77 years old, to be the main person leading that experience. And Grandma Yang, her younger friend, said to me that if I force her to use ATM or use non-cash payments and so on, she would rather go back to the pharmacy for queuing, even though she understands convenience store is more convenient, closer, and so on, because she's afraid that by using an ATM, her savings will be wired away or things like that. So we deliberately designed the convenience store kiosk flow to be exactly the same, just presenting the universal health card, inserting into a kiosk, pre-order, and then pay over the counter using coins if they want. Of course, mobile payment is still okay. And so because of this familiarity, because we bring technology to the people, then Grandma Yang can convince her more junior friends, like 66-year-olds, and they will then convince the 55 years olds and so on. And so the entire community can participate in this co-creation. But if we did not listen to the advice from the more senior people, I'm sure that this digital service will not be universally accepted in Taiwan. Yeah, I'm not the only person who does that, though. I mean, our current Vice President, William Lai Ching-te, when he was the mayor of Tainan, he used to tour around all the districts in Tainan to do exactly the same thing. It's like a town hall, a citizens meeting, and even after he became the premier, he also did the same, focusing on long-term health care and infrastructure works and so on. So it's not just me who does this, but I think having the politicians organize such face-to-face conversations where the agenda is set by the people, not by the politician, is really useful, because otherwise the people will have to rely on representatives, and representatives, even the most well-meaning ones, simply do not have the same life experience as the diversity of their constituents. And so just having the opportunity for constituents to speak to me or to William Lai or really to anyone in this way publicly, I think creates a lot of motivation for public participation. I would also add that during my office hours, just like with this conversation, the video is always published under Creative Commons, or at least a transcript is published as public domain. And so when people go and have a conversation, in a sense, the camera or the tape recorder stands for the people who are not in the room, and also for future generations. So it's quite unlikely that anyone who visits me will make an argument that sacrifices the future generations for the prosperity of the current generation, simply because it will look very bad in historical records. And so this idea of intergenerational solidarity is also implicit in my practice of radical transparency. I mean, I will call it a innovation, like data portability, joint data controllership in the GDPR. These are also innovation. These are just digital social innovation, not digital industrial innovation. But it's still a innovation, and it sets the social norm, right? The GDPR sets important norms so that around the world, people change their tone on conversation, right? It started in the US too, in California, but now also over at the DC. And so introducing such social innovations to the world, I think, remains one of the strongest points of the European contribution to the digital age, because digitalization has an awe in it, right? It's not just about digitization, which is connecting machines. Digitalization connects people, and having such social innovations makes sure that everyone who gets impacted by technology have a say in such a technology. And I think also it helps to reshape the conversation around technology, so that instead of smart cities, I hear you talking about smart citizens. That's great, because citizens can be smart. And then cities are the collection of the citizens, of course. If the city is smart by making the citizens dumber, I don't think that's a smart city at all, right? So, but this norm shaping, again, has a very European feel to it. And I think the Europe must continue to do such contributions, and Taiwan can help too.